For 20 years, the story was a ghost. A whisper in the locker room. Steven Seagal, the Aikido master of Hollywood, got into it with a top WWE star and was quietly, permanently shown the door. The internet swore he was blacklisted for life. Then, in 2025, with the crowd begging for a hero, a Seagal walked through the curtain and the building forgot how to breathe. The fight that followed wasn't for a belt. It was for a legacy. And it was 20 years in the making. The year is 2003. WWE's riding high. A titan of sports entertainment, and backstage access is the ultimate currency. Steven Seagal, an undisputed king of action cinema and a legitimate 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, is a guest. He's not there for a storyline. He's there as a martial arts icon, a friend to the giants. But in the hyper-masculine, ego-fueled environment of professional wrestling, respect is a fragile thing. The details are buried under 2 decades of rumor, but the story that survived alleges an altercation. A top-of-the-card superstar, dripping with championship gold and bravado, makes a comment. Seagal, a man who built a career on stoic intensity, doesn't let it slide. Voices are raised. Chests are puffed. It never comes to blows, but a line is crossed. No cameras caught it. No dirt sheet printed a word. But the fallout was immediate and invisible. Phone calls stopped being returned. Invitations dried up. The open door was closed and locked. There was no press release, no public shaming, just a silent mutual understanding. The WA universe, a world Seagal had a quiet respect for, had erased him. The rumor of the quiet blacklist became a phantom, a cautionary tale whispered by veterans to rookies about the dangers of bringing an outsider's ego into their house. And just like that, the story of Steven Seagal and WE vanished into thin air. For the next 2 decades, Seagal receded from the wrestling world entirely. While his film career continued, his personal focus shifted inward, deeper into the philosophies that had always underpinned his martial arts. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a student of Aikido's core principles: harmony, discipline, and redirecting an opponent's energy. He trained in Kenjutsu, the art of the sword, honing his sense of timing and awareness. This was a man seeking mental clarity and spiritual growth, not public feuds. Yet a quiet regret lingered. The incident wasn't about a fight he lost, but about a misunderstanding that had cost him a world he found fascinating. He saw the athleticism, the storytelling, the heart of pro wrestling, and knew he had been dismissed as just another arrogant Hollywood celebrity. That silent expulsion left a mark, a question of honor unanswered, a story without a final chapter. He carried it with him, not as a burden of anger, but as a quiet, philosophical problem he had yet to solve. Fast forward to 2025. The WE landscape is dominated by a new breed of superstar, louder, brasher, with an ego forged in the fires of social media. A young, cocky champion, let's call him Alex the Apex Relly, stands in the middle of the ring, a championship belt slung over his shoulder. He runs down a list of legends, mocking their styles, their eras, their legacies. He's untouchable, and he knows it. In a fit of supreme arrogance, a fan in the front row shouts, "You wouldn't last a minute with the real tough guys." Alex smirks, grabs a microphone, and leans through the ropes. Tough guys? You mean the guys who tucked their tails and ran? Hell, even Steven Seagal was scared to step into a real fight in this ring. The line is meant to be a throwaway, a cheap pop at a forgotten name. But it lands like a spark in a tinderbox. The crowd murmurs. Online, the clip goes viral. The forgotten ghost story is suddenly front-page news. The challenge, dripping with mockery and disrespect, hangs in the air. Someone dared to say his name. The insult doesn't reach Seagal through a news alert or a social media tag. It comes via a phone call from a number he hasn't seen in 20 years. On the other end is a retired WWE legend, a man who was there that night in 2003, a man who understands honor better than anyone. He's seen the Apex's disrespectful promo. "Steven," the legend says, his voice gravelly with age and wisdom, "I know what happened back then. It was never about being scared. It was about respect." He explains the situation. A young champion has no respect for the foundation he's built his career on, and the fans are hungry for a hero. "This isn't about revenge," the legend insists. "It's not about winning a match or settling a score. This is about redemption. It's about showing that generation what real honor looks like. The door is open, one night only. Will you answer?" The call ends. For Seagal, it's not a question of ego. It's a philosophical imperative. The universe had just presented the solution to his 2-decade-old problem. There are no press conferences, no interviews, no WWE Performance Center training montages. Seagal disappears. He retreats to his private dojo, a place of wood and stone nestled in the mountains. The training is not about learning new moves. It's about rediscovering old ones. It's a return to the source. Days are spent in silent meditation, followed by hours of brutal, repetitive drills. He practices Aikido, focusing on joint locks and throws, the art of using an opponent's force against them. He practices Kenjutsu, the way of the sword, cultivating a state of mushin or no mind where action becomes instinct. Flashbacks of the 2003 confrontation flicker in his mind, not with anger, but with analysis. He sees the younger man's ego, his own pride, the breakdown in communication. This time, the communication would be different. It would be pure, physical, and undeniable. He is not preparing for a wrestling match. He is preparing for a lesson. Monday Night Raw. Alex the Apex Riley is in the ring, basking in the booze, his laughter echoing through the arena. He's just finished another tirade when he says, "And as for the legend Steven Seagal, it seems he's still hiding." The crowd groans, half expecting a joke, a celebrity impersonator, or a silly video package. Instead, the arena lights go dark. A single ominous tone hums over the PA system. The crowd falls silent, confused. Then, the Titantron flickers to life, showing only a single word: Aikido. A plume of smoke erupts on the entrance ramp, and when it clears, a silhouette stands there. The lights slowly rise, revealing Steven Seagal. He's older, his hair grayer, but the posture is unmistakable. He wears a simple black GI. He doesn't wave, he doesn't play to the crowd. He just stares, his eyes fixed on the champion in the ring. The arena holds its breath, then explodes in a roar of disbelief and awe. The joke became a reality. The ghost had just walked back into the building. The bell rings. Alex charges forward, all flash and fury. Seagal stands his ground, perfectly still. It's not a wrestling match. It's a confrontation between two philosophies. There are no flips, no high-flying theatrics. Every time Alex throws a punch or attempts a takedown, Seagal redirects his momentum with a fluid, effortless motion, sending the champion stumbling. The commentary team is stunned into silence. "This is not sports entertainment," one announcer whispers. "That's real combat." Alex gets more frustrated, his attacks becoming wilder. Seagal uses a series of precise, debilitating wrist locks and joint manipulations, never injuring, but always controlling. The fight ends not with a pinfall, but with Alex trapped in a standing sleeper hold, his face a mask of panic as he furiously taps out on Seagal's arm. The bell rings. The lesson is over. Seagal releases the hold, and the champion slumps to the mat, defeated and humbled. Seagal doesn't raise his arms in victory. He doesn't grab a microphone. He doesn't even look at the crowd. He simply turns and walks back up the ramp, his expression as stoic as when he arrived. As he disappears through the curtain, the Titantron displays a final message he left with the production crew. It reads, "Some fights are not about belts, they're about dignity." The crowd, which had been in a state of stunned excitement, transitions to a wave of pure, unadulterated respect. They understood. This was never about a comeback. It was a statement. He had returned to the world that had shunned him, not with anger, but with the quiet authority of a master. He waited 20 years to speak without saying a word.